He mistakes lawful use of force for murder and it's not.
He's an out-of-touch rich guy who doesn't know what he's saying.
If Mr. Tarantino was robbed, Mr. Tarantino's house was broken into, think about who he would call.
I have to call the murdered.
He should be ashamed of saying that.
I don't know who appointed Mr. Tarantino an advocate against police, but the fact is what he did was very irresponsible.
He's standing in the blood of a murdered New York City police officer, and I think that's despicable.
I have to call the murdered, and I have to call the murderers the murderers.
Growing outrage aimed directly at Hollywood director Quentin Tarantino, and it's not slowing down, at least not anytime soon. Now another union joining in on the boycott of Tarantino's new movie. The National Border Patrol Council slamming the Oscar-winning Tarantino after he called cops murderers at an anti-police rally in New York City. National Border Patrol Council Vice President spokesperson Sean Moran goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta.
Why did your organization call for this boycott?
Well, we want to stand with our brothers in the NYPD and other police unions. For far too long, Border Patrol agents have had a target on their back. So we know what they're going through, and it's time for this nonsense to stop. You can't call out police who are simply doing their jobs and responding to crime in our communities and make them the problem when that is far from the problem.
Is there anything that Quentin Tarantino could do to sort of to convince your organization not to join the boycott? Is there anything you can say or anything you can do, because he's obviously got himself into a heap of trouble?
No, I don't think there is. We stand with our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. Law enforcement officers in this country are being targeted, and that needs to stop immediately. And when you have rhetoric like this coming out from somebody who has a very bully pulpit, they need to talk about the real cause of these problems. And I think people should realize when your own father calls you out, you're doing something wrong. And we talked to Tony Tarantino today. He's going to be on our podcast, The Green Line, next week to talk about this. And so I think Mr. Tarantino really needs to look at himself and see what he's doing, because we think he's wrong.
Did his father say why he thought he did this?
He thought it was for money, and his father, Tony Tarantino, has relatives in the NYPD, and he said he was disgusted by the comments, and he has family that have been injured and paralyzed in the line of duty, and so for his son to come out like this, it felt like a real slap in the face.
Well, apparently, according to the LA Times, Tarantino is not backing down, and he says he's not going to be intimidated by the police.
Well, we're not going to be intimidated by those in Hollywood who are going to shoot their mouths off and say things that are going to put law enforcement in danger. We're going to speak out, and we're going to make sure that with a united voice, we oppose the people that incite violence and use rhetoric against us. We respect his First Amendment right to free speech, but there's a line that's been crossed. You don't go into a theater and yell fire, and you don't try to incite violence against law enforcement officers.
Well, he hasn't asked for my advice, but I think for starters he might want to visit the National Law Enforcement Memorial here in D.C., where there are over 21 or 22,000 officers' names who died in the line of duty etched into the wall, and it might begin to sort of shift his sense of reality. But we'll see what he does. Probably nothing. Anyway, Sean, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.